The Eternal Haunt Shadows of Elmhurst Avenue. 1. A quiet suburb. Year was 1995. And a quaint suburban town nestled on the outskirts of Chicago. The Beckett family moved into a modest two-story home on Elmhurst Avenue. The family of four: John, his wife Linda, and their teenage children. Sarah and Mark were eager for a fresh start after years of living in a cramped city apartment. The neighborhood was quiet, filled with neatly trimmed lawns and friendly neighbors who waved as you passed. It was the kind of place where doors were often left unlocked, and kids played until the streetlights flickered on. But beneath the facade of serenity, Elmhurst Avenue had a dark history, one the Becketts would soon come to know. 2. The house with a secret. Beckett's new home was everything they had dreamed of: spacious, affordable, and with a large backyard where Mark could practice his baseball swings. But the house had been on the market for over a year, something the real estate agent dismissed as market timing. The Becketts were thrilled to snag such a deal. Shortly after moving in, strange things began to happen. It started small: lights flickering, doors creaking open, and the faint sound of footsteps at night. Sarah joked about the house being haunted, but John dismissed it as old house quirks. One evening, while unpacking in the basement, Linda found an old, locked trunk. Its leather exterior was cracked, and the brass lock was tarnished. She called John to help open it. Inside, they found yellowed photographs of a family, a diary, and a rusted hunting knife. The family in the photos had lived in the house decades earlier, but their expressions were somber, almost fearful. 3. The diary. Curiosity got the better of Linda, and she spent the next few nights reading the diary. It belonged to a woman named Margaret, who described her life in the house during the 1960s. At first, the entries were mundane: birthdays, recipes, and garden updates. But as Linda read further, the tone shifted. Margaret wrote about her husband, Thomas, and his increasingly erratic behavior. July 14, 1967. Thomas is not the man I married. He's been spending late nights in the basement. I hear whispers when I go to check on him, but he says it's just the radio. August 3, 1967. Something is wrong. I woke up to find Thomas standing over me with the hunting knife. He said he was sleepwalking, but his eyes, they were cold and recognizable. Linda couldn't shake the knees the diary stirred. She shared it with John, but he brushed it off as the ramblings of a distressed housewife. 4. And welcome visitors. In the weeks that followed, Sarah and Mark began complaining about strange occurrences. Mark claimed he saw a man standing in the backyard late one night. Sarah said she heard whispers coming from the basement when no one was down there. One night, Linda woke up to the sound of the front door slamming. Rushing downstairs, she found Sarah trembling in the living room. I saw someone in my room, Sarah whispered. He just stood there, staring. John checked the locks and the windows but found no signs of forced entry. He assured Sarah it was just a nightmare, but Linda wasn't so sure. 5. The basement. After Sarah's incident, the family decided to investigate the basement more thoroughly. They moved aside boxes and furniture, eventually uncovering a trapdoor hidden beneath a tattered rug. Beneath it was a small, dirt-floored room with walls lined with scratch marks. In the corner, they found a rusted chain bolted to the floor. The discovery sent chills through Linda. She remembered a diary entry from Margaret. October 19, 1967. I found the room. Thomas says it's nothing, just an old storage space. But why would storage need chains? The family decided to seal the trapdoor and not speak of it again, but the sense of unease lingered. 6. A neighbor's warning. Gone afternoon. An elderly neighbor named Mrs. Callahan came by with a plate of cookies. As she chatted with Linda, her eyes wandered to the house. You know, she said hesitantly, this house has a history. The Thomases, they weren't right. Margaret disappeared, and no one ever found her. Thomas claimed she left him, but she trailed off. Linda pressed her for more details, but Mrs. Callahan only shook her head. Just be careful. Sometimes the past doesn't stay in the past. 7. The breaking point. Family's breaking point came one stormy night. The power went out, and the house was plunged into darkness. As John went to check the circuit breaker, Linda and the kids huddled in the living room. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the house, but John wasn't back yet. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Mark grabbed a baseball bat, and Linda clutched a kitchen knife. The footsteps stopped outside the living room door. Then, silence. When John returned, he found his family trembling. They searched the house but found no one. The front door was locked, and the windows were intact. Fleeing the nightmare, Beckett's didn't stay much longer. A week later, they packed their belongings and moved out, leaving behind the house and its secrets. Months later, Linda learned from a news report that human remains had been found in the backyard of their old home. The skeleton belonged to a woman, and the case was being reopened. The Beckett family never spoke of their time on Elmhurst Avenue again, but the memories haunted them for years. 9. The unanswered questions to this day. No one knows what truly happened. In the house, was it the spirit of Margaret seeking justice, or was there something darker, something tied to the house itself? Whatever the answer, the Beckett family's story serves as a chilling reminder: some secrets are better left buried. 10. The new tenants. Months after the Becketts fled, a new family moved into the house. The Ramirez family, a young couple with their toddler son, were drawn by the affordable price and large yard. They had heard whispers about the house's dark history, but dismissed it as small-town gossip. It wasn't long before they, too, began experiencing strange occurrences. Their son, Daniel, started waking up screaming, pointing to the corner of his room, and yelling about the man. They found his toys arranged in eerie patterns they hadn't made, and their dog refused to enter the basement. 11. The police investigation. Discovery of human remains in the backyard brought the police back to Elmhurst Avenue. Detective Claire Hansen, assigned to the cold case, began piecing together the house's history. Interviews with neighbors revealed troubling stories, strange noises, disappearing pets, and whispers of Thomas's violent temper. Detective Hansen discovered old police reports that suggested Margaret had tried to leave Thomas multiple times but always returned. The scratches in the basement and the rusted chain hinted at something far darker than anyone had imagined. 12. Uncovering the truth. Detective Hansen obtained a warrant to excavate the basement. Beneath the dirt floor, they found another skeleton, a child's remains. The DNA matched a missing boy from the 1970s whose case had gone cold. The horrifying discovery confirmed suspicions that the house had been a site of unspeakable crimes. 13. Thomas's journal. Among the items recovered from the basement was an old journal belonging to Thomas. The entries were chilling, detailing his descent into madness. He wrote of voices instructing him to purify his family and make them stay. December 24, 1967. Margaret doesn't understand. The house speaks to me. It says she wants to leave, but I won't let her. She'll stay forever. 14. The paranormal connection. Word of the house's dark history attracted paranormal investigators. A team set up cameras and audio equipment, capturing chilling footage of shadows moving without explanation and voices whispering Margaret's name. 15. The Ramirez family fleeced. Ramirez family lasted only 3 months. They fled after finding their son locked in the basement, crying and pointing to the corner, saying, "She's here." The family moved far away, leaving the house abandoned. Once again. 16. The auctioned house was eventually auctioned off to a developer who planned to demolish it and build a new property. But during the demolition, workers reported seeing figures in the windows and hearing screams at night. Several workers quit, refusing to return. 17. The final resting place. When the house was finally torn down, the land was left vacant. The developer claimed it was due to zoning issues, but locals believed it was because the ground was cursed. Flowers and small memorials began appearing on the lot, left by those who knew its history. 18. Margaret's spirit. Locals often report seeing a woman in a white dress walking near the lot at night, her face hidden by shadows. Those brave enough to approach say she vanishes before their eyes. 19. The documentary. A filmmaker created a documentary about the house, interviewing the Becketts, the Ramirez family, and Detective Hansen. The film uncovered even more chilling details, including reports of other disappearances linked to the house over the decades. 20. The legacy. Despite the house being gone, its legacy remains. The lot is avoided by most locals, who cross the street rather than walk by it. Some say they still hear whispers when the wind blows, a reminder that the past can never truly be buried. 1. The cursed artifacts during the demolition, workers uncovered a hidden compartment in the basement foundation containing various artifacts, a rosary, a child's shoe, and a locket engraved with the initials MT. Paranormal researchers believe these objects might hold the key to the lingering hauntings. The Forgotten Victims Detective Henson's investigation uncovered records of disappearances dating back to the early 1900s. Newspaper archives revealed other families who had mysteriously vanished while living in the house, suggesting the land itself was cursed long before Thomas and Margaret. The medium's warning. A renowned medium, Claire Belmonte, was brought to the site to communicate with lingering spirits. She claimed to feel a heavy, oppressive energy, and warned that disturbing the artifacts would only make things worse. "The land wants them back," she whispered ominously. The construction workers' Fadione of the demolition crew members, Jim Harker, took one of the artifacts, the locket, home as a keepsake. Within days, he began reporting night terrors and visions of a woman standing at the foot of his bed. A week later, Jim disappeared, leaving only the locket behind. The archive revelation. Local historians unearthed records of a cult operating in the area during the 1800s. The cult believed the land was a gateway to another realm and performed rituals to bind their spirits to it. This revelation added a sinister dimension to the house's history. The school's curse. Years later, a school was built on the vacant lot. Teachers and students reported strange phenomena: books flying off shelves, lights flickering, and voices calling names in empty hallways. One teacher claimed to see a shadowy figure lurking in the gym after hours. The investigative journalist, a journalist named Erica Price, decided to write and expose on the property's dark history. She interviewed surviving members of affected families, but as she delved deeper, she began experiencing unexplainable events herself: mysterious phone calls, scratches on her walls, and recurring nightmares of being buried alive. 28. The Lost Chapter of Thomas's Journal. A final, previously undiscovered chapter of Thomas's journal surfaced, detailing a pact he claimed to have made with a shadowed figure who promised him eternal power and exchange for sacrifices. "The house and I are one," Thomas wrote. "We endure together." 29. The last seems desperate to end the hauntings. Locals organized one final seance on the land. The medium warned them to leave, but they persisted. Witnesses reported a violent gust of wind and a deafening scream. The medium collapsed, muttering, "It's not over." 30. Then broken cycle. Though the lot remains empty, its influence lingers. New families in the surrounding area report eerily similar phenomena: whispers in the night, fleeting shadows, and inexplicable cold spots. The land's curse seems to have spread, leaving the community in perpetual fear. Epilogue. The eternal haunt story of Elmhurst Avenue continues to baffle and terrify those who hear it. Some believe the land's dark history will fade with time, while others insist it's only growing stronger. One thing is certain: those who come too close to its secrets risk being pulled into its eternal nightmare.